Yo, what is up guys, Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk is off. Once again, we don't get the heavyweight undisputed fight that it's been teased to us now for what, the best part of 5-6 years. It started with the Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder saga. Then it was Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Now Oleksandr Usyk and Tyson Fury. 5-6 years later, still no closer to getting undisputed. Summarizes boxing perfectly, in my opinion. You know, Dana White said the other day, he was asked about this potential fight, and it seemed like he was doubting whether this fight would happen, and he kind of you know, expressed his displeasure that the fight wasn't signed yet, and stated that is the problem with boxing. The fights that should happen don't happen, and if they do, they happen way too late. And yes, I know there are some outliers like Ryan Garcia versus Tank Davis, but those sort of fights don't happen on a consistent enough basis. And yet here we are, once again, Tyson Fury, Oleksandr Usyk is off. Quite frankly, this sport is getting harder and harder to cover with any real seriousness, with any real passion. Because time and time again, as boxing fans, we get let down. Now, of course, promoters are to blame, not working with each other, pricing each other out, playing politics, etc. Promoters are a big problem. You know, you don't need to be Nostradamus to come to that conclusion. Not only are the promoters a problem, but of course, the TV networks. You know, these guys are not willing to break bread, you know, work with each other to make super fights, etc. TV networks are also a big problem. The structure of boxing in general is a big problem. It is so fragmented, everybody's out for themselves and not to give the fans what they want. So we know the powers that be in boxing are to blame. Sanctioning bodies as well, we know the score when it comes to how boxing is run. So yeah, the power players in boxing, the system in which runs boxing is rotten to the core. However, we can blame these guys in suits, the promoters, the networks, the sanctioning bodies, etc. But boxing fans at this point in time, I think we really need to turn around and take a look at ourselves. We live in the social media era where it's never been easier to voice our displeasure. But time and time again on social media, all I see is so-called boxing fans appease promoters, let them off a hook, and in some cases even provide reasoning for why certain fights don't happen. Oh, this guy's a bigger draw than that guy, there's two separate networks here, blah-de-blah-de-blah. You know, these guys play sides, they will root for a certain promoter, whether it's PBC, Matchroom, etc, etc, etc. I know the score, you know the score. Again, breaking the fourth wall as a content creator, and you guys can see it as well. One of the ways to get over when it comes to YouTube boxing is to suck dick, to get on your knees for a certain promotional outfit, to play the narratives, you know, to push certain narratives, to essentially be a PR mouthpiece for certain promoters. That is one way to get over on the YTBC. Quite frankly, the vast majority of channels are doing a terrible job when it comes to growing the sport of boxing, when it comes to pushing for change in the sport of boxing. Most of these channels are doing a terrible job. Listen, some of their videos look real pretty, great editing, some nice music, flashy intros, great. You're a good content creator on a technical basis, but the substance of your message is terrible for the sport. You could be using your platform to really push these guys to make better fights, to make the fights we want, to get public opinion on our side, the actual boxing fans who want these good fights. You could use your platform to do that. But no, I see certain man on social media like tagging in promoters. Look at my video, praising you. Embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. Can you imagine conducting yourself like that? Just throwing your dignity out the window to be a little lapdog. Knee pad wearer, you know. Don't want to get you don't want to get grazed knees, bruised knees, the amount of sucking you guys do. Embarrassing. I'm sick of this fucking community from top to bottom. The vast majority of channels suck, as far as I'm concerned. Again, whatever happened to wanting the best fights? When did this era of fanboying for certain promoters, when did it start? And how has it got so bad? Because it's got progressively worse throughout the years. I think it really started with Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. Before that fight was finally signed, we had years of back and forths between Top Rank and Mayweather's people. And you know, you can go back then and look at the old forums. You see guys back then explaining why the fight shouldn't happen on such and such a terms. Fighter A's got to accept these demands. Fighter B has to accept these demands. Otherwise, the fight don't happen. Fans playing promoter, fans playing managers, fans playing accountants. When is this has to stop, man? This has to stop. This has to stop. As I always say, listen, as boxing fans, we're going to disagree on certain things. We're going to disagree on how fights would play out, things of that nature. We're gonna see fights differently sometimes in regards to scoring. That's all well and good. That is in the discussion of boxing. That should be discussed. Those are the debates that should happen among us boxing fans on social media. But ultimately, that is where the disagreements should end. No matter where we're from, no matter our politics, we should all be on the same page and push for the best fights. The fights that matter, and the fights happening when they should happen, not when it's too late. But again, we can't even seem to agree on that, you know. And listen, it's got to be said now, content creators are a big problem for pushing this divide, for pushing these narratives to suck dick for a certain promoter. It's just unacceptable. And when I say content creators, I mean guys who just talk about boxing. As well as that, the journalists in boxing, from the newspaper press to bloggers to the interviewer channels like Michelle Joy Phelps, Kugan Cassius, IFL TV, etc. Again, more of the same. Bending down, kneeling down, sucking dick, asking easy questions, asking promoters what's their favourite flavour of crisps. You know, not asking any difficult questions because they know they have to toe the line to keep their accreditation. You wouldn't get this in any other sport. You wouldn't get this in football, or as you Americans call it, soccer, or rugby, or NFL, etc. You wouldn't get this. You wouldn't get this. Boxing journalists are the lowest of the low, both print and online media. Lowest of the low. Leeches, vermin, succubuses, I would say. That's what they are. That's what they are. These guys need to set the standards because the promoters can't get rid of all of these guys. They can't get rid of Fight Hype, Michelle Joy Phelps, IFL TV, Ellie Sekbak. They can't get rid of all of these guys because they are important when it comes to promoting events. These channels are very powerful and they are worthwhile for promoters to talk about, you know. They get their events out there. They are key for the promotion of their events. These top level channels who interview fighters, who cover events, they need to get together and they need to come up with a plan to raise the standards of their questioning and be willing to ask difficult questions, because if one person does it, yeah, the promoter can kick them out. But if they all do it, they can't kick all of these guys out the pressers. They need these channels. They need the coverage, you know. And once these big channels start to do that, start to raise the standards, then it will have a trickle-down effect on the smaller interviewer channels, you know. But that's never going to happen because the likes of Kugan Cassius and IFL TV, they've now lost their MTK drug money sponsor, so they're not going to be rocking the boat. That's the level. That's the level we're dealing with here. Embarrassing. As for Tyson Fury, Oleksandr Usyk, I mean, can I say I'm surprised? Not really. Very disappointed. Listen, I don't even want to get into it because I'm going to get myself wound up. But ultimately, listen, you got one guy in Oleksandr Usyk who said when he turned pro, I want to be the undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world. And following that, I want to be the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. He set his goals out, he discussed his ambitions, and ever since then, he's fulfilled that journey, you know? He's done exactly what he said he was going to do. Up until this final hurdle. But you look at Oleksandr Usyk, look at his reputation, look at his record. Always will travel. Anyone, anywhere, anytime. That is Oleksandr Usyk's career. Name me another champion, and this is for the historians, who won all of his titles away from home. Won the WBO in Poland against Polish champion Krzysztof Glowacki. He then fights Maris Briedis in Latvia for the WBC cruiserweight title. Briedis, being Latvian, once again goes on the road and becomes a unified champion. He then fights Murat Gassiev in Russia to become undisputed in the cruiserweight division. Bear in mind, he had a whole host of defences also defending his title away from home. Marco Huck in Germany, Marco Huck being a German fighter. Michael Hunter in the USA, Michael Hunter being the American fighter. He then defends his undisputed cruiserweight crown against Tony Bellew, fighting Tony Bellew, the challenger, in his home country. So, Oleksandr Usyk took risk after risk after risk after risk in his undisputed run. Never complained. Then moves to heavyweight, has a gimme fight against Chaz Witherspoon in America. Then fights Derek Chisora, a rough and ready fringe contender in the UK, in Derek's home country. And then he fights Anthony Joshua, a guy with what, 2 or 3 inches in height, multiple inches in reach, 25-30 pounds heavier than him, fights him twice, once in the UK, in the champion's backyard, and then on neutral territory. Oleksandr Usyk has fulfilled everything that he said he would. Again, it's just pattern recognition. Oleksandr Usyk has conducted himself like a real boxer, a real fighter, a real champion, and a real competitor. Tyson Fury, on the other hand, yes, he's got a couple of really good wins. Vladimir Klitschko away from home in Germany, excellent win. But he reneged on his rematch clause with Vladimir Klitschko. Of course, at that point, it came out that Tyson Fury, you know, he failed a drug test. He refused drug tests as well, that sort of thing. Conveniently, he then starts talking about mental health, alleviating himself from any responsibility. So, never took the Klitschko rematch. You then look at the even before like Tyson Fury ever became champion, you had the situation with Kubrat Pulev. That fight should have happened, never did. You had the situation with David Price. That fight should have happened, never did. Of course, we then had the undisputed scenario first time around after Tyson Fury drew with Deontay Wilder, then beat him in the second fight. It looked at that point in time that undisputed would happen between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. It was all going well, according to reports. Tyson Fury himself said, this fight is signed, it's done. A day later, the arbitration for the Deontay Wilder third fight comes through. Undisputed doesn't happen. And here we are now, with Tyson Fury once again. With him involved, something tends to go wrong. You look at this situation with Oleksandr Usyk. Initially, before this fight was going to be in the UK, first fight was going to be in Saudi Arabia. It was confirmed that Oleksandr Usyk agreed his deal, agreed his side with the Saudis. Tyson Fury never did. He couldn't come to agreement with the Saudis. So Usyk has already agreed this fight once, bear that in mind. Then we have this big fucking hoopla about this fight being in the UK, April 29th, which always seemed way too close for me anyway. I doubted it would happen April 29th, personally. I thought it would be a bit later. But regardless, We've heard all of these back and forths between Oleksandr Usyk and Tyson Fury. Oleksandr Usyk has curtailed to Tyson Fury's demands in various ways. Bear in mind, 4 or 5 months ago, I think it was, Frank Warren went on TalkSport and said this fight, 50-50 down the middle, best man wins. It soon moved from that 60-40 to Tyson Fury at one point in time. Then Tyson Fury demands 70-30, which Oleksandr Usyk agreed to. Again, bear in mind, Oleksandr Usyk has already agreed this fight once in Saudi Arabia. And now the split was agreed for the first fight, and the stumbling block now is the rematch clause. So of course Tyson Fury is taking 70-30 in the first fight, and according to what I've seen, Oleksandr Usyk wants 70-30 in the rematch, should he win. Now to me that's fair. To me that is fair. Ultimately, Usyk is underpricing himself in this first fight anyway. He's underpricing himself. 30% is laughable for a unified champion and a former undisputed champion at cruiserweight. And let's not make out like Oleksandr Usyk is some scrub, is some no-name. Now, he's got name value. He's got name value. Again, yeah, Tyson Fury, cool, bigger name, I get it. But surely at some point, Tyson Fury has to make at least one concession. Can't Tyson Fury let his nuts hang a little bit and accept that sort of rematch clause in case he loses? I mean, after all, according to Tyson Fury, Oleksandr Usyk's a middleweight anyway, so what the fuck does he care? He's going to go in there, outman Oleksandr Usyk, bash him up onto the next one. Right? I mean, Usyk's a middleweight. He's a middleweight. And bear in mind as well, one interesting thing that Alex Krashuk said, who is Usyk's promoter, he's saying that the purse for this Tyson Fury fight is 3 to 4 times smaller than he got for the Anthony Joshua fights. So again, I keep hearing that Tyson Fury is this big name, this massive name. I mean, is that really true? He's a big name, yeah, but he's not as big a name as his fanboys like to make out he is. He's a big name, I'm not debating that, but look at his fight with Otto Wallin in America. Or who's the other guy? Tom Schwartz. Look at the arenas. You know, Bob Arum came out and said the second fight with Wilder did not make money. Then you have the pay-per-view numbers for Dillian Whyte and Derek Chisora, which were never released. Yes, he did well at the live gate, but ultimately pay-per-view is the true factor. That's the true metric of how over you are, of how well you sell. That's where the real money is made, is on the pay-per-view system. That's where the money is made. And without a dance partner, is Tyson Fury really that much of a name? Probably not. Do you think that Fury's defenses against Whyte and Chisora, for example, did as much as AJ versus, I don't know, Povetkin and Pulev, for example? You know, probably not. Probably not. And it's interesting as well. It's interesting. And you guys know I'm not the biggest AJ fan, but I found it funny that apparently that if Tyson Fury were to lose, he wanted the same deal as Anthony Joshua in his rematch with Oleksandr Usyk, which was 50-50. When Usyk fought Joshua the second time, it was 50-50. Why not put your nuts on the line and say, yeah, fuck you, I'll take 70-30 in the rematch. I'm going to beat you anyway, so it doesn't matter. Where's that confidence from Tyson Fury? It's not there. It's not there. It doesn't seem to be there. I mean, his fanboys, they seem to have more confidence in Fury than he does in himself right now. It's embarrassing. And it's funny as well, Tyson Fury, he made a video basically cussing out Usyk in the last couple of hours. Go and watch that video, look at Tyson Fury's face. He looks so happy that this fight is off. He looks so happy. Listen, man, as far as I'm concerned, he never wanted this fight. He never wanted this fight. That's how I'm reading this situation. That's how I'm reading this situation. He's constantly changed his demands throughout these public negotiations. It's never been good enough for Tyson Fury. He's a diva. He's a diva. And he compares himself to the likes of, you know, the greatest heavyweights in the world of all time. Compares himself to the likes of Ali, etc. calling himself the greatest. Well, Ali, a global icon, a global superstar, when he fought Joe Frazier, despite being a much bigger draw, a much bigger name, he fought for a 50-50 split because he wanted that title. He did what he had to do. He did what he had to do. And Tyson Fury is not willing to do that. He's not willing to make concessions, whereas Usyk has shown that he is. Tyson, not so much. And also bear in mind, does Usyk even have a rematch clause? Or is it just if Usyk wins? I've not heard that either. It seems to me that it's one way. I could be wrong on that. You guys will have to let me know. But yeah, I mean, expect a lot of fluff pieces in British boxing in the coming days and the next couple of weeks. You'll get some softball interviews with Frank Warren, you know, from the likes of Umar at IFL TV. We'll get these softball interviews and whatnot. It is what it is. It is what it is. Ugh, bro. What can I say? I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. I shouldn't even be disappointed because, I mean, I think deep down we all half expected this to happen anyway. But it is what it is. It's a shame. It's a shame that this fight isn't happening. It really is a shame. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens next. I hope they can come together and somehow salvage this, but I doubt it. I doubt it. And I have a theory as well. I do wonder if this is a ploy from Frank Warren and Queensberry, because think about it. Frank Warren has two fighters in mandatory positions for Oleksandr Usyk, in Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois. He can keep this heavyweight picture in-house for a while. If you're Frank Warren, why not have Dubois fight Usyk first? Yeah, Dubois is going to lose, we get that. But Joe Joyce? Let's say if Joe Joyce beats Usyk, then Frank has all of the marbles and he can keep all of that money in-house. You know, this may be a ploy by Frank Warren to keep a tight grip on the heavyweight division for the next year or two. I have thought about that. Maybe that could be a possibility. But yeah. Share your thoughts below. I know I've been all over the place in this video, but share your thoughts below. It's been your guy Delboy. Peace.